On my watch, Bob will be allowed to complete his work. That's what Attorney General nominee Bill Barr says he plans to tell the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow as his confirmation hearings are set to begin. Barr has been critical in the past of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, and that's why this has been a very big question. And this is a very big moment. Let's go right to CNN Justice correspondent Jessica Schneider for more on this. So what else do we know now ahead of Barr's testimony tomorrow about what he's likely to say? Jessica?
Well, Kate, we know that this hearing will likely be very contentious. So because of that, William Barr is releasing his opening remarks about 24 hours in advance, possibly in a quest to really tamp down on this flurry of aggressive questioning that he could face. So the headline here, William Barr will pledge to let Special Counsel Robert Mueller finish his report and continue unimpeded with the Russia investigation. So Barr will make these remarks official tomorrow morning beginning at 9:30. And in them, we've gotten the whole list of what he will say here. He will say that it will be vitally important for Mueller to complete his investigation. And Barr will continue on and say, I will not permit partisan politics, personal interests, or any other improper consideration to interfere with this or any other investigation. And of course, Kate, Democrats have raised a lot of skepticism about Barr, given his previous comments in both op-eds and even an unsolicited memo that he submitted to the DOJ, that in his view, the president could not have obstructed justice to fire FBI Director James Comey since it was within his authority. But Barr now coming out in front of those criticism, releasing 4 pages worth of his testimony in which he will say, well, the public, they should be told of the results of Mueller's work. And he also will say that his goal will be to provide as much transparency as he can, consistent with the law. So, Kate, Bill Barr really coming out in front of all this, saying that he will stand behind the Mueller investigation. He writes in his testimony he's known Bob Mueller for 30 years, so saying that he will stand by it, that he wants the report released publicly, and that he will not impede this investigation. Kate?
All right. Jessica, great to see you. Thank you so much. A lot to come on that tomorrow. Let me bring in my panel right now. Asha Rangappa is here. She's a former FBI special agent and CNN legal and national security analyst. And CNN national security analyst Samantha Vinograd is here as well. She was a senior advisor to the national security advisor during the Obama administration. It's great to see you guys. First, Asha, really quick, when Bill Barr says this, on my watch, Bob will be allowed to complete his work. How important is that?
It's very important, and I think it is reassuring to the American people. You know, he is the former AG. I think he understands the values and principles of the Department of Justice as an institution. And I also think the fact that he has a professional relationship with Robert Mueller, I'm sure he respects him a lot. Now, let's remember that under the special counsel regulations, if he does try to stop anything that Mueller does, that does trigger a reporting requirement, and it would go to Congress. So I do think that there is an extra layer of transparency that is ensured should he take steps for whatever reason.
Interesting. Well, much more to come on that tomorrow. But on the today, right now, Samantha, the Greg Miller I just had on for the Washington Post, that reporting about how the president has gone to extraordinary lengths to conceal notes, conceal information about his face-to-face meetings with Vladimir Putin from not only becoming public, but from even going to his closest knit advisors. What would these notes look like? What would they contain?
Well, Kate, I have planned, executed, and memorialized presidential meetings, and there are various steps that past presidents have taken to really just maintain basic counterintelligence hygiene. At the front end of any meeting, you plan a meeting manifest and meeting participants to ensure that there are human witnesses in the room that can corroborate what actually happened, to promote your team, to empower them, to show a foreign leader that you actually want your own team there. And you have a note taker present that can also write down a written record of what happened that can be filed in the presidential archive, because that is a foundational document that sets a U.S. narrative about what happened, and it can be incorporated into actual policy planning going forward. Absent any of those steps, President Trump is letting Russia set the narrative about what happened. He's hamstringing the U.S. policy team from incorporating any feedback into what happened. And he's really saying, take my word for it or take Vladimir Putin's. And the question is really why. He didn't do this once. He did this 5 times. And keep in mind that every time he met with President Putin, the intelligence community would have given him a briefing on what to expect and Russia's ongoing attack on our country. He cannot claim ignorance is bliss. So the question is, why does he keep doing this? What is the intent behind it? And based upon all that, we should all be asking, is the FBI counterintelligence investigation still ongoing based upon all these red flags?
Oh, that might be something that maybe Bill Barr should have to answer to tomorrow. Asha, when it comes to the interpreter's notes or the interpreter themselves, there is now a big conversation that is reigniting again if there should be a subpoena issued and if it is a subpoena correct for the interpreter and what that would mean. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so with regard to the notes themselves, I just want to point out that those actually should be preserved legally under something called the Presidential Records Act.
Right.
So those should not be destroyed. That would not be in compliance with the law. And just to Sam's point, I want to add that having a briefing with your team, and particularly with your intelligence team, after a meeting like that would help, enhance our intelligence capabilities by knowing what our adversary is interested in and what they asked about. So he has really kind of also hamstrung our IC in some ways. With regard to the subpoena, there are some thorny legal issues here. Going back to President George Washington, there has been a traditional pushback in the under separation of powers principles against Congress intruding on the president's diplomatic role as the head of state and meeting with other heads of state. And those can be sensitive conversations. We don't want Congress to be able to harass a president by intruding on those all the time. However, here there is a legitimate national security concern based on all the things that Sam just said. So I think that it would raise some big legal, separation of powers issues to issue a subpoena. I expect the White House would assert some kind of privilege over them, and then we would have to see if it got litigated where the courts came down on it.
Yeah, and it seems that would be a real big one. And honestly, it very likely could be a real big fight that is actually coming. Asha, great to see you. Thank you, Sam. I really appreciate it, guys.